So now we are going to study about some important term which present in the study of topic of religion. So we utilize that important term related to religion, that is monotheism, polytheism, myth, and ritual. That term related with religion, but we have tried to understand the meaning of that term. Generally, UPSC or other commission does not ask question on these types of term, but we utilize these types of term for the understanding of religion. So simply you have tried to understand this term and how we utilize this term for the understanding of religion. So monotheism, that is belief in single God or goddess, right? When we have studied about E.B. Tylor approach for the evolution of a religion, so basically E.B. Tylor said that at first in primitive society there was development of animism, right? So animism was the early form of religion. Then there was development of polytheism. And then after polytheism there was development of monotheism, right? So what actually E.B. Tylor want to say that? E.B. Tylor actually want to say that in the process of evolution of religion, belief in single God evolve in advanced stage of social development. Advanced stage of social development. When society become more advanced and complex, it is developed at the stage of civilization, because when you try to understand about E.B. Tylor scheme for the evolution of society, so they also explain society evolved from simple to complex form. And earliest society, the form of earliest society was savagery, then barbarism, and then civilization. So this is monotheism, like a religious approach, evolved in human society at the stage of civilization. So it is a more advanced aspect of religion, more advanced form of religion, when society become more complex, more developed and more advanced. As for example, if you try to understand about their example, so Islam, right? Islam is an important example of monotheism, and Islam evolved in early medieval period. So try to understand, try to correlate about the approach of E.B. Tylor regarding evolution of religion and you can also understand that form of religion. So this is basically a term. When you try to understand about this religion, right? So that develop in a stratified society, monotheism, but Islam tried to make society as a egalitarian society, right? Because single God, belief in single God. So if a belief in single God present in society, so they tried to make some similarity in their society, and therefore you can analyze this thing in this way. Second important concept, that is polytheism, means belief in many god or goddess. Belief in many god and goddess. So if you try to understand about E.B. Tylor approach for the evolution of religion, he found that after animism there was development of polytheism, right? And belief in many god and goddess, these types of belief develop in that society which has diversity in their social organization, in their economic situation, and different social group worship different god and goddess. So an important example of polytheism is Hinduism, right? So we also see Hinduism as a Sanatan religion, Sanatan Dharma. So that is the gradual process. But when you try to analyze about the god and goddess of Hinduism, you can find that there are many gods and goddesses, and that many gods and goddesses represent differences in society. On the basis of a study of polytheism, you can analyze about differences found in that society. So different social group has different god and goddess, and therefore these types of a belief in polytheism develop in that society which has more and more diversity, right? So you can explain Hinduism is an important form of polytheism. Polytheism also found in a tribal society, because tribal also worship about natural thing, their totem, and some nature also, just like a worship of a sun, worship of moon, worship of tree, worship of animal, worship of sacred water. So these types of belief found in many society, but Hinduism is very important examples for the understanding of polytheism. After that, we have to study about myth. So basically, term myth is derived from Greek words. Greek word mythos, right, means a speech or a story. First thing is that term myth is derived from Greek word mythos, or mythos means a speech or a story. So simply, myth is traditional a story which give us moral teaching, right? Myth is traditional story which give us moral teaching, which give us information about traditional information about or traditional interpretation about evolution of earth, evolution of universe, evolution of organism, where did we come from, that interpreted by myth. Myth present in every society. Give attention about that. As for example, when we are talking about Bible, so Bible is a myth, Ramayana is a myth. In anthropological perspective, anthropologists understanding that Ramayana is a myth which give us about moral teaching. Bikram Baital is myth. So when you try to analyze about the myth, you found that there is two important aspects of every myth. There is some evil and some divine element present in myth, and there is a struggle between evil and divine, and lastly divine win in that struggle. Myth give us moral teaching, and which is very important for the social control in simple society also. But here we try to understand how anthropologists study myth. What is the anthropological approaches for the study of myth? So first important thing is that Branislaw Malinowski, when he had done a study in Trobriand Islanders in his famous work The Argonauts of Western Pacific, he also did a study about myth. So Malinowski said that myth does very important function in society, right? Myth fulfill the biopsychic need of individual because every myth gives us moral teaching. So that moral teaching apply for the fulfillment of the need of individual. That moral teaching teach an individual to do behavior according to the norm of that myth, the norm of tradition, the norm of that story. So we try to behave according to that. There is also myth present in society if a person, an individual violate some rule and regulation, some tradition which found in their myth, then supernatural punished them. In this condition, generally people follow these types of myth, right? Even if you try to look out about the behavior of modern educated person, you found that they also believe in some myth and they did not try to violate that myth, right? So according to Malinowski, myth does very important function for the fulfillment of biopsychic need of individual, right? And therefore society or their people behaving according to myth. Second important anthropologist who have done a study about myth, he was Levi-Strauss, and Levi-Strauss had analyzed a study of myth in a structural point of view. A structural point of view. Right? He developed an important theory which is known as a structuralism in anthropology. So, in a structural analysis of myth, Lévi-Strauss said that myth develop in human society due to human mind, and because human mind always thinking in binary opposition. So in myth we found binary opposition, a struggle between two binary oppositional things. And when you try to correlate about that two binary oppositional thing that make our social structure, so we can understand social structure on the basis of a study of myth. Right? Then Marvin Harris, he was an important anthropologist who had developed concept of cultural materialism in anthropology. He had analyzed about the myth in according to concept of cultural materialism. So he give focus about myth has some materialistic perception that associated with our material culture. So human, if we try to understand about human culture, so myth is not only associated with our non-material culture, but we can also understand myth and we can also understand our material culture through the interpretation of myth. So myth gives us very good insight for the understanding of our material culture and non-material culture also. So through that you can understand about the concept of myth. After that we understand about an important thing, that is ritual. This is very important, ritual. And when I discuss about religion, so I have already discussed about ritual is an important aspect of religion. It is an important aspect of religion. So basically religion has two important aspects. One is belief and another is a ritual. So ritual is basically repetitive behavior to supernatural. Repetitive behavior to supernatural means society has belief in supernatural and people try to associate with supernatural, try to connect with the supernatural with rituals. And ritual present in the form of hymns, song, dancing, or giving some object to God or goddess. But in anthropology, an important anthropologist, Arnold Van Gennep, had studied about an important ritual, rites of passage or right de passage. Right? So basically rites of passage or rite de passage is an important ritual which is associated with major life crisis in the life of human being. Means human being try to resolve their problems through rites of passage or rite de passage in their major life crisis. So major life crisis say in human life, you can understand, that is general understanding of major life crisis in human life, that is birth, right? That is death, marriage. So human being try to adjust with a major life crisis through rite de passage, and he explained this thing, rites de passage has three important components, that rites of separation. First, second, rites of segregation or transition, and third, rites of incorporation or integration. Means he proposed that three stages related to major life crisis in human being, and each stage has a special types of ritual present in every society, right? Rites of separation, when individuals separated from their society. Rites of segregation or transition, in this stage individual totally isolated from society. And in rites of incorporation or integration, in this stage individual again associated or reintegrated with society. So he proposed that these types of ritual present in all society, and through that you can understand these four important concepts that mentioned in our syllabus, that is monotheism, polytheism, myth and ritual. So this is the important concept.